Hello and welcome to this developer experience review of GitHub.com. This is the second video. Previously I've looked at Twilio. If you look at my site, better.io, you'll find some reviews of Stripe, Pusher, Twilio, SendGrid as well. In this review, very simple, I'm going to run through kind of the onboarding of developers onto GitHub.com. I'm not going to look at necessarily the onboarding of GitHub.com as a developer using GitHub.com, but very specifically a developer using their APIs. I have three criteria for that, three steps that I'm going to be looking at. The first step is how long does it take for me to get an idea of what I can do with the GitHub API? What is its purpose? Do I need to log in, etc.? Secondly, I'm going to look at how easy is it to get started, sign up, activation, finding my API keys, making that first API call. And then thirdly, I'm going to look at their reference documentation and see how easy it is for me to get an idea of every parameter, every argument, every response code, every error type. Am I able to find those? Am I able to see what the API calls that I make actually return into? So yeah, let's go and head over to github.com. As you can see, github.com, I think for most of us who are developers, it's probably been a while since we've seen this page without actually logging in. And as you can see, it's very much focused around their developer product, their main product. Now, what's interesting is from all the companies that I've looked at so far, this is the first one that is very much has a split personality, where all the other products I've looked at, they were developer first. They were products where the API was the product. In this case, the API isn't really the product. It's it's Git. It's a Git hosting company with certain integrations, etc. But their main focus is on users. So as you can see, that it's really hard to find the API mentioned on the front page. If you actually search for API, it does show me some stuff. It shows me that there's powerful integrations. I see stuff like Slack, ZenHub, Atom, a whole bunch of other companies, CodeShip, Gitter, Heroku. I know that I can integrate this, but what does the API really let me do? When I click on Learn about integrations, I can just see what integrations have already been built. I can't necessarily see what the API is. There's a mention to API here, but as far as I can tell, there's also a mention all the way at the bottom. I'm just looking at this, of developers, which seems to be the platform that we, in this case, are interested in. Okay, so once we're on this page, I wonder, the question really is what can I do with this product? What can I do with this API, these SDKs, this platform? So let's see if we can figure that out. Build your app on the GitHub platform. Not sure where to start. Handy guides. Explore the documentation. I mean, a big call to action there. Pretty clear. Some getting started guides. It seems to be there over there. Basics of authentication, discovering resources for a user, and some libraries. Cool. So far, I love the use of white space. It's very clear, very clearly kind of separated into different segments. This top bit is a sort of call to action page for new users. For those who want to deep dive directly into specific elements, there's some popular parts over here. On the left-hand side, we have different kinds of guides, and on the right-hand side, we have the libraries. And then for those of us still in doubt, there's some popular integrations. So I wonder what it looks like if I go to, say, Gitter. If I click on Gitter, what does it tell me? It tells me what Gitter is. Okay, it doesn't really show me how I would use that necessarily as an API, how I would build something like Gitter. Okay, so let's just say explore the documentation. Again, that's pretty poor. I never like it when explore the documentation effectively means, voila, here is the reference documentation. That's a bit like kind of putting the cart in front of the horse. It's not what I needed at this point. Okay, this is useful for later, but it's not what I needed. So let's scroll down a bit further, maybe click on the Get Started guide. See, personally, that would have been my big blue button over there. Let's see if this is a bit more useful. Okay, overview. Most applications will use an existing wrapper library in the language of a choice, but it's important to familiarize yourself with the underlying API HTTP methods. Now this is interesting. It's just a curl example. So let's see if we can run that. Design for failure. That works. Similarly, we seem to be able to just get a user's profile data. Great. I had a bit more information than they showed me there. Hence the ... Great. Very simple example on what kind of information I might be able to get. Cool. It doesn't quite show me what kind of products I could necessarily build with it, what kind of integrations I could build with it, which is a bit interesting. I know it's possible to build very interesting integrations with GitHub, but I am not quite sure. This seems to be mostly about getting data out of GitHub. Let's see, managing deploy keys. This actually took us to a completely different page. So these seem to be very specific guides for developers on specific topics. Okay. Webhooks. Okay. I mean, it's all very much reference documentation as far as I can see, except for those few guides that we came to from here, which I then linked to from this guide section on the right. Okay, well, I'm not completely disappointed so far. I think it's an interesting API that is mostly focused around getting data out of GitHub. But I'd love to see how easy it would be to actually push some information into GitHub as well. So let's see how we can continue that from here. So let's see how we get started next. What's interesting is that there's on this page not really anywhere to now sign up. GitHub already assumes that we have an account somehow, which I guess might be right to assume, but it still seems a bit odd. Let's sign up. Create a personal account. So let's create a new account. No, I don't want to do that yet. Oh, wow. How would you describe your level of programming experience? Well, let's assume I'm an absolute newbie to this all. I'm doing this for development and school projects. I'm a student. I'm just saying I'm a student because to me it's always more interesting to kind of assume that we're a less experienced developer, because documentation that caters to those kind of people is generally good for everybody. And I'm interested in Android. Cool. Okay. Well, as we can see, we're now logged in, but we don't have any links to the APIs or anything. We still need to verify our email, which I think we got. Here we go. Yeah, let's verify this. Great. Now on this page, I can fill in my name, etc. There's some developer settings here that I've discovered. personal access token, scripting or testing, integrations, register a new integration, which seems to be about something else than getting data out, and registering a new integration, and OAuth applications. Again, there's different ways to kind of use GitHub, and there's no clear guidance around how to use any of these. Where to start, what to do first, kind of a sample integration to show off. Yeah, so integration seems to be very new. Okay, not sure how I got to this. So let's go back to developer.github.com. So as we saw, there's a bunch of calls we can already make quite easily without having any special permissions. So for example, we can, sorry, if I go here, you can get this kind of information about Octocat already. And if we say C beta, which is my normal account, we should be able to see a couple of different organizations. Great. But what if we want to make an authenticated call? As we can see here, that we can do that through curl, just providing an OAuth token, or as basic authentication, or an OAuth token in a parameter, or an auth key secret, which is only in servers. Interesting, but not a lot of overview of which API calls necessarily would be authenticated. So let's say we want to create a new repository on our new user. Let's say create. How did we go about that? For the authenticated user. Okay. Not what I want to do. Okay. Okay, this isn't really getting us anywhere, so let's see if we can, if there's a different way to look at this. I'm assuming if we go to libraries, there will be a Ruby library. There we go. Let's see. Let's try and create a repository. So we copy paste this. That's what I keep doing, keep clicking on links. Let's create an app. Let's require OctoKit. Let's see how we can authenticate this. We can authenticate this with a username and password, which seems like a weird way to do this, but I think there's some other ways of doing this as well. There's basic authentication of access tokens, so access tokens that we got by using something like login with GitHub, or kind of using other systems. Okay, let's use this for now. So if we say okay, let's see what this does. Oop, did it again. Great. Okay, I've made a call. I've made a call to kind of create to get my own data. That seems to work. I wonder if we can We can make this a little bit prettier. Just bring another gem in here. Great. Okay, we can see what information is coming in here. Now let's see if we can create a repository. How do we create a repository? Okay, now this is problematic. I'm not quite sure how to use this to do anything else. GitHub Enterprise. Let me see. So I'm assuming if I do user Rails repos, I might be able to get what I want. Doesn't really give me much. I wonder if I can then create on top of that. Undefined method create. Okay, so there's not a lot in here to get creating anything. That, or I'm just not sure how to use this. How to use this product. So let's see, if we go back to developers.github.com, and we go to repositories, create. So the idea is to just do a post, but a lot of the information here seems to be about reading, not about writing. There's at least no example for me how to actually create. Maybe if I say post, no, nothing. It's completely pointless at this point. Let's see if there's an issue that might have the information in it. Making new commits. Create repository. Okay. So there's a function called create repository, but for some reason there's absolutely no documentation on this at all. Is this just the same things? Method list. Okay, so it seems like they're purely just relying on these kind of reference documentation to fully understand what I can actually provide. So, okay. So user create repository. All right. We need to pass a name string. So just a name. Okay, and that returns nil apparently. Did that do something? No, that didn't do anything. Oh, I'm doing it wrong. It's not a name parameter. Test. repo. Let's try this again. Okay, that's still not working. So we're using the right test credentials. Or maybe it's client. There we go. That seems to actually have created a repository. Okay, well, that was a lot harder to find all the information about than I expected. I don't think using the OctoKit necessarily made things easier. I have a feeling I might have been better off if I had just stuck to using curl, just integrating myself. But the final thing we want to look at is, so there's all this information coming back. Can I find the exact specification of what I'm getting back here and what each of these fields means? So if I look at that and I go to the developer reference, and I go to repositories, and I go to create, we can see here kind of scopes that need to be provided. Here's the different inputs. So I can provide a description. You know, it nicely defines the name, the type, and the description. So it's very clear on which ones are required, which ones, what the defaults are, and what the types are. The response, not that much. The response is just an example. It doesn't tell me what the defaults are. It doesn't tell me if this always comes back, what the expected ranges are. Nothing. There's not a lot here. With some companies, they'll have these kind of resources named somewhere else. So wonder. Let's see. I mean, it says here list your repositories. You'll get a list back. But again, these are kind of parameters that are posted or passed in the request. These are request parameters, not response parameters. Same thing. Response, not a whole lot of information about the response. So yeah, search users. I don't see anything that would suggest there would be a bit more data about this. Okay, so that's it for my review of GitHub, their developer product. It's not perfect. It's not bad either. There's definitely a difference between how a company like GitHub, where a lot of it traditionally at least seems to have evolved around kind of getting data out of GitHub, how they've approached things. It's very much about scope, giving access to people to allow them to get the right scope to pull data out on behalf of users. So this is for kind of third-party integrations to get their data out of GitHub on behalf of a user of GitHub. There's some new integration stuff, but even there's very little get started guides. It's just random documentation, very academic, but not very user-friendly for somebody who doesn't quite necessarily understand what they're trying to do. The reference documentation is interesting, but it only references kind of the HTTP spec, not necessarily how to then do that with their libraries, even with the official libraries, which is a bit disappointing. It also does not show you how to use the response parameters. Finally, there seems to be absolutely no kind of onboarding flow for developers onto the platform. The onboarding flow is very much focused on getting people to use GitHub. But even like from developer.github.com, there is no link to get to your API keys to create a token or anything like that, which is a bit disappointing as well. That's it from me. Next time, I'm probably going to look at a smaller company, a younger company, a company that has only been around recently, but I think there's a few small companies out there that have been doing very cool stuff. So I want to bring those out and highlight what they're doing. Thank you very much.